This is December 11th, 2023, Select Board meeting for the town of Reading. Any changes to the following agenda?
None from
Any
me.
changes?
None from me.
I don't have any changes, but I did read this email from Mark about discussing something other new business rather than under the resignation from the PCZBA member.
Mm-hmm.
We don't define new business, old business, so I'm not sure we need to do anything.
Okay.
I don't know.
Just talk about it during the resignation letter time.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Minutes of the November 13th, 2023 Select Board meeting. You should have a copy of them in front of you.
I have one correction under present on Zoom. Mark Corbin, I missed him for some reason, and he asked that he be added.
Okay, Mark Corbin under the
Yep.
Zoom.
Yep.
I'll move that they be accepted as printed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Treasurer's report.
November revenue was $663,864.70. Expenditures were $2,185,622.74. The balance as of 11/30 was $619,725.83. The big thing is paying school taxes. Delinquent taxes owed to the town is $1,155.50. There's been some payments since then, but I don't have that right now.
It was
to accept-
$100,155.50.
Yes.
Okay.
Move to accept the treasurer's report as written.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Action items. Windsor County Sheriff. He's not here, but I think there's a substitute.
How you doing, guys? I need to go to your microphone. Good evening. I want to thank you again for having us here. Sheriff Palmer could not make it as he was tied up. So again, I think we have on a pretty good basis. We're consistent with the hours that you had initially under the old contract. We have gone to a new contract, as you guys know, to try to make it a leveler option for the town, so it's an annual service fee versus based on hours, even though we do have an hourly minimum and maximum of the contracts. Right now, you guys are pretty much in good shape. We're averaging about 0.3 of a stop per hour for traffic stops, and about a case a month. So I think without dealing with complaints as they come in, you pass them along to us, or the residents can contact our dispatch and we can have an officer in the area respond. Mm-hmm. Our biggest thing, as we told you initially, is we're doing a regional policing service, so you may have people in the town, but if something did come in, as it was a life-threatening or an emergency, we would get deputies that are close to respond to that emergency. Seems to be working pretty good so far. Our feedback has been good from the public. Haven't heard much from you guys, so now is the time while I'm here. If you have any feedback, any questions, I'm here. Shoot away.
No, I haven't heard many complaints around town about speeding or vandalism. Anybody have any questions of the Sheriff's Department?
So we have a contract with them, right, for,
Correct.
is it 42 hours a month or thereabouts, something like that?
It's 12 hours a week.
12 hours a week, that's what we do?
Yeah.
Okay,
On average, could be more or less.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any issues that they want to raise from, for the sheriff's office? No? No, Jerry? Okay.
I'm here. At least you didn't say the abandoned car. Excellent, if we got nothing, feel free, give us a shout if you do have any questions. Thank you all for having us. Happy holidays to all, and we'll see you
Thank you
later
for
on.
coming.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the work
Have a
that you
good
do
one.
for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys very much.
They got on Zoom, 90. If 90 is on Zoom.
We have 2 resignations from the PC zoning board of adjustment. And we need to accept those resignations and then solicit someone to fill those positions. Stacy, you have any comments on that?
Do we want to say who the resignation letters are from?
Yeah.
I want to just, I don't know who says who the people are that we're talking about, just so everybody understands who we're talking
Okay.
about.
Kathy and Kurt both resigned.
Kathy and Kurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, to get the discussion started, I'll move that we accept their resignations.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Second that. All those in favor? Aye.
Can I, since this is a discussion thing too, Bob, there were no reasons given in the resignation letters, right? It
No.
just said we're resigning?
I didn't see any, was
There were
there?
no,
No
I have
reasons.
emails right here, and there's no, they just, I hereby submit my resignation to my membership on the Reading PC and ZBA. Kurt Boyd. And Kathy's was, please be aware, as of 12/5/2023, I am resigning my position on the Reading Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Adjustment effective immediately. Kathy. That was it.
Okay. So what do we do now? Do we discuss this?
You ask the planning commission to be involved in the selection process.
Yes.
Well, we're talking about filling those positions now. Is there any
That's correct.
discussion on the actual resignation? I mean, there were no reasons given, but does the planning commission want to talk about in open public what the reasons might have been that these 2 people decided that they no longer wanted to fill the positions?
Well,
Crickets.
Yeah, crickets, for sure. You can't speak for anyone else, you know, they have their own reasons.
I wouldn't want anybody to speak for anybody else, but I didn't know if there were reasons given that were, people said it's fine to, it's okay to share this. I don't want to, I don't want anybody's confidence to have been, given away, or, like you said, have somebody speak for somebody else out of turn.
Right. And Kevin, maybe with your comments and your last email to us, you have something to say about this?
What email was that?
That email where Mark and I were trying to discuss what the next steps were with you.
I'm not discussing that email in public.
Okay.
Okay?
I think one thing that Kevin just mentioned is correct. We would look to them to make recommendations for
Yes,
Sure.
that's the proper procedure.
either immediately or by March. March is when we do our appointments, in March meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get through the 3 months, 2 months, 2 months now.
Well, if
So-
I'm correct, if you have a 5-member board, you would have to have a unanimous 3 to get anything done, correct?
That's correct, because as I found out when we were trying to increase the board to 7 members, and did increase the board to 7 members, the quorum became 4.
Right.
When we agreed to remain at 5 until we made that motion and distinction, the quorum was still 4 out of the 5. So we said we will go with a 5-member board. That moved the quorum down to 3. So now that you're a 3-member board, I would say that we should adopt that at the present time until we have people available to fill the other 2 positions. And once we do that, the quorum will then be 2.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, because
I would have to ask Robert, are you speaking as a select board member or a zoning administrator when you say things like the size of a board should be 3 at this point?
Select board.
Okay.
I don't think you were saying, Bob, that the size of the board should be 3 at this point. I think the size of the board is 3 at this point, right?
It is 3 at this point.
And so
yes.
if the size of the board is 3, we only have 3 members, is a quorum 3, is a quorum 2 at this point?
until you, it's the way I understand it, until you reduce the board to 3. It's even temporarily, if it's until the town meetings next year, or, you know, we get additional candidates, we can address it, but something needs to take place in the interim, otherwise nothing will get done.
That's correct. Nothing will get done, and it shouldn't get done until there is a 5-member board.
Well, do you have
Why-
names to submit at this point in time?
Well, good luck with that.
Mark has made the effort to put an advertisement out on what is the Front Porch Forum,
Yeah.
and I guess going in the Informer to try to see if anyone would be interested.
I'm sorry, before we go there, Stacy, I wanted to key off what Kevin said. I'm not sure I agree with you, Kev. I wanted to talk about it a little bit because you said nothing should get done until we have a 5-member board. I don't know if, I don't agree with that. I don't know if that's actually the case or not. I'd like to understand if you have 3 people on a 5-member board and the 3 of you can agree, it seems that you should be able to get something done at this point.
Would you please check with the Vermont League of Cities and Towns on the process?
Well,
So-
I think we did when we were talking about going to 7 members.
No, you did. But when there's a quorum of 2, you're liable to break the meeting rules if 2 people speak to each other during a discussion of any sort related to planning, so you're going to violate open meeting laws. So, for instance, if I call Stacy and say, look, can you change the meeting? Or, Mark, would you be willing to do such and such? I'm violating the open meeting law.
Well, the statutes state that the planning commission can be from 3 to 9 members.
Right.
So if the statutes, the Vermont saying that it can be as small as 3 members, then 2 has to be the quorum. It's no different than the select board.
Well, okay, I'm just making a recommendation that any emergency types of hearings be available to the present members, but in terms of egregious types of, what should I say? Incidents or situations, then we should table those until there's a 5-member board.
Have the ability to do that anyway? I'm just asking.
As board members,
As-
I would have to talk to the board members. I'm not speaking for anybody, as Stacy mentioned, but this is my opinion. I would like to be able to discuss the current situation with the planning commission. members that are left, with regard to the procedure, the next procedure.
And well, you should.
Yeah.
That would be my opinion,
Well-
well, you should.
I believe in order to have a chair, because right now we're sort of rudderless without a chair or a vice chair on the planning commission. So we have to appoint, the commission has to appoint, so three of us have to appoint a chair in our next meeting.
The commission has always elected their own chair and vice chair.
Okay, I'm done discussing this. I don't have anything, unless somebody has other questions from the select board or public.
I've got a question. If it's a five-person board, without actually making it a three-person board officially, how can you have a quorum unless it's unanimous?
That was my point, John, you can't.
Yeah.
So we'll just be dead in the water.
Right. So I would say probably, circumstances such as they are, you are, right, until it's recommended, or just until you make the attempt or change the board size.
Well, Mark is already the chair of the ZBA. Kathy was the chair of the planning. And I've agreed to assume, Kevin has declined on becoming the chairperson. And I have said I would become the chair of the planning, but we need to appoint the chair of the planning, if I'm understanding correctly.
Well, you would do that within your own group.
Right.
So assuming you guys can work out and will work out who is chairing what with the three people that are there,
So.
the question,
Right.
the question becomes, can you operate as a three-member board temporarily until we fill these additional two vacancies?
I believe the select board has to create an interim three-member board.
Yeah, I don't know about this, Bob. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, we did that with the 7-member board. So I think we should make a recommendation to have the planning commission and the zoning board of adjustment, a 3-member board.
Temporarily.
Yeah, I don't know how they can do business without it. They might as well just stop meeting.
Right.
And this is an example, if I, agree to become the chair of the planning commission, Mark votes for me, Kevin does not, I still not the chair of the planning.
Okay, so then if you can't come to some kind of agreement on who's the chair, does that get bumped then to us to appoint a chair, or just?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Usually the
That's a very good question.
planning commission should appoint their own chair.
Right. But if they can't reach agreement, I guess it's just a what if they can't reach agreement. I'm not saying that it looks like it's going that way, I was just wondering.
Yeah, I think that we have to make the move first, to be honest,
To go
To temporarily make it a 3-member board.
temporarily,
Yep.
until they bring us a name or 2 names for the recommendation, or 5 names, it doesn't matter, but I don't know how they can do any business unless they all agree all the time.
Right.
They wouldn't have a quorum, and with no quorum, you can't vote on anything.
Right.
You're assuming, and I guess you must know that, so the quorum is based on the size of the board that's been authorized, not the size that exists.
Yes, that's where we got into trouble.
Okay.
When we tried to go to the 7-member board.
All right, got it.
Can I ask, would it not still be a productive use of time to at least give the next 2 to 3 months for them to meet and still have discussions, whether they come to essentially unanimous decision or not, rather than A, doing nothing for 3 months, or B, being in a position where it only takes 2 for a quorum? Wouldn't it still be productive to at least, let's just assume, but let's assume Kevin's the dissenting voice against the other 2. Wouldn't it still be worthwhile for there to be discussions over the next 2 meetings, rather than Kevin's vote being overridden by the other 2, or whatever the pairing is? In other words, maintain it as a 5-person board until additional folks are appointed, and then pick up voting, on day 1 after that point.
I think we can I think it would be a relatively easy thing for, and I don't want to speak for everybody, a relatively easy thing for us to do to temporarily change this to a 3-member board and allow them to attempt voting if they want to, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, and there's nothing lost.
Right.
But if they are able to get something accomplished, then it seems prudent to do that over the next however long it takes us to fill those vacant positions. Okay, so then there.
Yep. Hello. Yep. Hello. Sorry, I just zoomed in. I missed part of this conversation. I thought perhaps this should be under business, but one of the questions that I have is there any commitment or interest on the part of the select board to do some sort of exit interview for the 4 planning commission members that have resigned in less than 6 months?
I don't know, they were pretty adamant in their resignation letter.
All they did was state the fact they're resigning.
I am not privy to any of the reasons why they left, but this seems unprecedented that 4 out of 5 members have resigned over the course of less than 6 months. And I think that in terms of understanding the climate or the culture of the board or the town, I think it would be helpful. I would be interested in learning why and how we can improve the board and be able to foster the best possible candidates to move forward.
Well, should that start with the planning commission that's left?
Mark, I know you missed the beginning of the conversation. Apparently, that was exactly how things started. We wanted to understand why. Why have these last 2 folks resigned, and either no one knows or no one is willing to speak for the people that have actually resigned and explain that at this point. I know that I personally have talked with the previous 2 folks to do some kind of an exit interview, make sure I understood why they had left, and I think the other guys have as well. Doesn't change the fact we have this to deal with right now, and we certainly can do that. I don't know how willing these people will be to share what's been going on. So, either Kathy or Kurt.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Bob. Shouldn't the planning commission do the exit interview?
I would think the planning commission would like to know why
Yeah.
people are leaving.
Well, the select board is the driving force for the last appointment types of efforts to go to a second board member. Is that correct or am I mistaken?
Well, the reasoning behind that at the time, Kevin, was the fact that we had a 5-member board, and we had at least 2 and maybe 4 at one time that had expressed interest in serving on the board. And our discussion was, well, if we've got 5 on there now and we've got these other people that are interested, then why don't we move it to a 7-member board and get more voices on the board?
Well, you can be a voice as a citizen.
Well,
Very easily.
but they had expressed specifically in joining the board. That didn't pan out because as the discussions evolved, 2 or 3 of them withdrew their desire to be on the board. And at that time, I have no idea why they did that, because that was the same situation. We're withdrawing our name from consideration, basically, was the. Yep.
And sorry, one other question. I hope it wasn't that I missed it. I was hoping this was going to be under other business. Did Stacy bring up the request to have select board members attend the planning commission meetings?
Not yet.
We haven't got into that discussion yet.
Thank you. Okay.
That was in my email to everyone this afternoon. My second point.
So it seems like to move this forward now, the action for us is to approve a temporary 3-member board, right?
That allows them to do business.
Right. I mean, do we need any more discussion about this before I assume that's a voting,
We need a motion on it, yeah.
Okay.
We'd need a motion.
all right? I'll make a motion that we temporarily make the planning commission a 3-member board as opposed to a 5-member board with no time period, but acknowledging that we are going to work to fill those additional 2 positions as expeditiously as possible.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Mark, you had your hand up.
I'm sorry, just one other comment.
I just would like to, for the record, state that some of Stacy's comments do not necessarily reflect the views of the Planning Commission on the whole, or me as an individual member of the Planning Commission. So I would just like to put that on the record.
So no,
Or at the risk of dragging this out, Mark, is there something that Stacy said specifically that you disagree with? Because I haven't heard anything controversial at this point.
No, I just thought in terms of, he sent everyone an email a few hours before with not a lot of notice. To me, this should be something that is under other business, not the resignation, even though it's related. I think it should have been something separate. We have to be very sensitive as to what we put on the agenda and follow through with it. And then there was just sort of some discussion and references that, if there are 2 members voting against another, it seemed, you brought up my name, you brought up Kevin's name. So just wanted to make sure that, I'm just on the record for saying, I didn't get to make any statements as to initiating that part of the conversation.
but I think the 3 of us understand that it could be unanimous or it could be 2-1 in any direction.
Right.
I think that there was a reference made, but I don't see where a 3-member planning commission board would be any different than a 3-member select board or a 3-member any board.
Right.
That's my opinion.
So there's a motion on the table to temporarily suspend temporarily change the planning commission zoning board of adjustment to a 3-member board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I just clarify that Bob had included some other language to bound the term temporary? Couldn't put a time frame, but said with,
And I intentionally did not want to put a time frame on it.
Right, but you did say.
But I did say I don't want this to drag out. So I really want to
I
fill
think
these
it's
positions.
really important that all of your language be included in the motion to indicate that there is a recognition that the word temporary is undefined.
I'm assuming that Callista caught that when we got the motion. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Yep.
And then the other point that Mark was referencing in the email that I sent you.
Wait a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
We're voting on this, right?
We already did.
We already did? Okay. I don't remember saying that I voted, so that's okay.
I remember you did.
Okay. All right, sorry.
So the next point was, because we are a little bit, well, not a little bit, we're a lot of experience, Mark and I especially, with the whole process, it might be a good idea for us to change our dates from Mondays to another date, which works better with one or all of the 3 of you. So we have that sounding bar through our meeting in the event we need to reference something historic or a process that we're unsure about. So instead of Mondays, maybe if Wednesdays are better for you, or Tuesdays, or whatever it may be, just so we have more of your involvement in the meeting.
So I just want to be clear, you're asking for select board attendance in an advisory capacity, something like that?
Correct.
What do we think about this?
What are you looking at me for, Bob?
That's my default position.
Well, I think most everybody here may know that I have a commitment on, other than the select board meeting on the 2nd Monday of the month, I have a commitment on the 1st and 3rd Mondays of the month. And I have, in some cases, made sure that I attended the ZBA meeting specifically, or occasionally a planning commission meeting, like December, the other organization doesn't meet on the first Monday of the month, but that's only December. So I'm the problem child as far as Mondays go, the first Mondays or the third Mondays go. Other than that, I'm fairly open to suggestions or comments. And we do have some ZBA hearings coming up, whereby if they're still meeting on Monday, I will definitely be there, but it's just my schedule.
Okay. So then for an action here, should the planning commission, ZBA coordinate with you for your schedule to see what would work?
What about you two?
We're trying to get this over to you.
Robert, you're the zoning administrator, you should try to attend every one of the planning commission.
And I have had that conversation many times with Steve Straight, and I can't, but I would try to attend as many as I could if it was not on a Monday night, or at the first, second, or third Monday night.
Well, speaking for myself, I think I can make any day of the week possible. So Mark and Kevin need to make a comment on that.
And to your point, Kevin, I would agree with that 100% based on the fact you're now talking about the zoning ordinance and changes to it, but I do have those other commitments.
Okay, can I say that we try not to solve this here, but that we agree that it looks like Bob Allen would be the right guy to act in that capacity if he can work it out with his schedule? So just take that back and work it offline.
Great.
Okay? Figure out the right meeting time. Okay?
So back to the chair.
Yep,
How are we going to handle that?
You guys are going to.
that's over to you guys.
So we're going to do that on
Yep,
January 2nd. Okay.
whenever your next meeting is.
Okay.
And then you can work that out yourselves.
Okay.
Okay? And so that's, you know, we've had a number of issues. There's still the issue now of filling the vacancies. No, you're muted, really, it's fine, go ahead, say whatever you want to.
Hello, can I say something? I don't, it's very hard to process this because I don't want to be out of order, but the audio is pretty unintelligible from this end of things. And I notice even the microphones on the dais aren't pointed towards the select board members, and whatever audience participants say is unintelligible on Zoom because there's just that one kind of weak microphone. So if Zoom is going to be anything meaningful, there really has to be a much more attention paid to audio. Otherwise, it just makes somebody want to turn it off.
Good comment, thank you. Patrick?
Echo in the room,
Yeah.
so unless this microphone is moved closer to whoever's speaking, which is tough when you only have one microphone.
Right.
So I'm trying to move it closer, but even this, when like Stacy is talking, with a mask, with the echo in the room, with that distance, it's really, really difficult.
Okay.
What's that?
Do we try to hand the microphone
Well,
around?
we only have this much cable too, so can't we move that much closer? So I think people, I think honestly, the best thing is have, like you did with the sheriff, or with the lieutenant, come up to the microphone. I mean, it's probably the only thing we can do to make it so that the Zoom audience can hear.
Okay. Makes sense.
Otherwise, it is pretty tricky.
Good. So we were coming back, I think the last thing on this was now I was hoping we were going to talk about filling these positions, the vacancies. Right?
Yes.
Well, I think we have done what we need to do. They should now start to look for people and serve them up to us.
Okay.
3 that are left,
Come back with recommendations.
you know, 1 at a time, or like I said, 5 at a time, whatever you come up with. And by you being able to do business, our structure meeting is in March, so that's really only a couple of months away, a couple of months and a couple of weeks, so it's not that far away.
Does that cover everything you need, Stacy?
May I-
We shall see.
Kevin? Sarah?
How much time does a commitment to these boards take?
I can answer some of that.
Yeah, I would
I
think.
remember Dick Salter as the chair. If you remember the Salter's Greenhouse, Robert, I know for a fact. And,
Yeah, well, we got you right here.
my apologies. Everybody remain calm. The Planning Commission is like any other form of government. It's what you put into it. Now, there are people here on various committees that put in a lot of time for the town. Myself, you know, every product or process can be improved, and I could have put in a lot more time. But I would say, to answer your question, 2 hours of meetings, sometimes twice a month, depending on workload. And for homework regarding working with Manascutney Regional Planning Commission or other parts of the planning process, you could put anywhere from 6 to 10 hours of work. Personally, I don't do that much. I've been on the board for quite a few years, and I'm just sort of floating along. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to point out that we have on tape now that Kevin Kaya doesn't do that much.
I do think, Sarah, that it goes up and down somewhat, as Kevin has alluded to. When you're trying to rewrite the town plan, that takes a lot of work. When you're trying to rewrite the zoning ordinance, there are certain sections where people are well informed and well versed, and other sections that don't need any changes. So it may be up and down, but go ahead, Kevin.
I might add, there are training sessions you can go to, they're both online and in person, and those are a commitment too. If you go to Manascutney Regional Planning, they have a series of planning sessions, not only on planning for towns, but energy-related issues, transportation, brownfields, waste management, the whole issue. Now, we don't have a representative to the waste district, do we? We should also get a person for that, as well as the members.
To the waste district, we
Yeah.
did appoint, who did we appoint?
They moved. We tried to
Yeah.
appoint somebody, and he moved out of town.
No.
Yeah.
And now
So
we don't
anything
have
that
it.
affects the town residents, there needs to be a representative who comes to a meeting and says what's going on.
Right. And we don't have a representative to Mark anymore either.
Kathy was the representative.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so that's another job item. There needs to be representatives to various committees. So, communication. I'm pretty much satisfied with my comments. Any other questions?
Okay.
Can I ask, I feel like we kind of directed that last thing to Stacy, but I want to ask Kevin, I want to ask Mark, as the last three members, you guys okay taking on, filling that position, making recommendations to fill those positions and bring them forward?
I think everybody in town should engage with trying to find people to serve town government. We're all in this together.
Yep.
Yes, I would also just invite people to come to the meetings, and if they've ever had a history of attending the meetings and interested in moving the town forward and reading policy and looking at the relationship of how we can meet the needs of residents and do some growth and do some smart planning, then I would also as somebody who's been attending meetings for about 2-3 years, invite them to come and do so and submit their names. And The planning commission would like to do some sort of quick interview with possible candidates before submitting them to the select board for nomination.
Appreciate that.
Yep. I mean, that's a good point that feel free to attend these meetings and see what they're like, obviously, before you have to throw your hat in the ring. But just get familiar, even if you're not necessarily interested in joining as a member. Attend, see what it's all about. Thanks, guys.
We all set with the PCZBA?
If I could just chime in, hey, it's Anna. I was not aware of the rapid resignation of 4 of our planning commission members, and I think that's pretty startling. And if we're not doing exit interviews, I certainly support that to find out why there's been a mass exodus. I think that's really important to the town currently and as we move forward.
And I'd say it was a rapid departure of 2. The previous 2, that was a while ago, a few months ago at least. Actually, it seems like a lot longer than that, but I'm not sure that Steve, that June, July.
4 resignations in 6 months.
Yep.
Starting in June, July.
And then 2 in November.
Yep.
Yeah, it certainly seems like there's some topics that maybe need to be dug further into to elucidate why, Kurt and Kathy have been on that committee for years,
Right.
why they decided to leave. And it surprises me that there wasn't a reason put in their resignation letter. So I think that would be prudent for our town to dig deeper into.
Thanks, Anna.
All right, we also have the resignation letter from an auditor.
Yes, Regina Westcott, they've sold their house, they're moving to be closer to their kids and grandkids, so she resigned from the auditor position that she's had for a couple years now.
That's one we gotta find.
Yep.
That's an elected position.
Yeah. We gotta find somebody to run.
Find somebody to run.
So
If anybody's interested, please come see me to get the paperwork that you need.
So it's an elected position, but we can appoint temporarily, right?
If it's, but election's coming right up.
Right.
Either or, doesn't matter, but to get on the ballot, there's paperwork that needs to be filled out.
Why don't you just run that by them? How many signatures they gotta have?
There's a consent form that needs to be filled out, and there's a petition that has to have 6 or 8 signatures. 1% of the registered voters, so it's 5.01 people or something like that.
6 people.
As of right now, that does change if the checklist changes, but
Do we only have one auditor, Callista?
no,
Or
there's 3 auditors.
there's 3?
There's 3, Charlene and Marion.
Does this one person leaving, put the other 2 in a bind where it's too much of a
We
workload?
meet quarterly in my office.
Okay, good.
And that's pretty much, we meet quarterly, they go over, just to make sure that I'm following all the rules I'm supposed to be. With the check, with bank statements, and they
Okay.
kind of audit them.
So these are people checking your homework, huh?
Uh-huh,
Okay,
checking my work. Gotta have that.
got it.
So we need a motion to accept the resignation letter from the auditor.
I'll make that motion to accept it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So FEMA and bridge repair update. FEMA has, well, go ahead, Bob, with FEMA. And I'll start with the bridge, and I'll go with the bridges.
All right. Quickly on FEMA, we're still meeting and will be still meeting, I think, until sometime in June, he said. May or June with the FEMA rep, going over where we're at, what we've done, getting the paperwork put together that they require, which is considerably different than in 2011. We have not heard anything about reimbursement yet at this point in time. And unfortunately, I'm not sure when we're gonna hear about that, but we have got the first road completely entered, and this will give us an idea of how the process goes from there on out. All of the roads themselves have been completed. We do have a couple of bank stabilization areas that we're gonna finish up here in the next month or so. And of course, the two bridges, the Archer Bridge and Grasshopper Lane Bridge. The guy that we're working with from FEMA, he's a very nice guy. He is on your questions immediately. Unfortunately, he is from Puerto Rico, and some of the explanations that we give him, I'm not sure that he picks up 100% on, so we have to go over them a couple of different times. But other than that, it's moving forward well. Roads are completely done as far as I know, except for the bank stabilization on Bailey's Mills and a little bit on Town Farm Road. And then, of course, the two bridges, which will both involve some stabilization when we get them done.
Mm-hmm.
Question? Would you be able to notify the planning commission? Yeah, sorry. Would you be able to notify the planning commission of any FEMA representative coming to town in terms of flood management?
Sure.
Or the riprap that may be put in, or the bridges?
Yeah, I don't know why not.
Thank you.
The only thing is, Kevin, all these meetings have been by Zoom. He's located up in Colchester, I think he said, anyway, up near Burlington.
Yeah.
We meet for an hour and just bring him up to date on paperwork and stuff like that. I've had 3 site visits, 3 different groups come for site visits early on. This was back in September. And since then, we haven't gotten any indication from those people that came, okay, we'll pay for this, but we won't pay for that. The comment was made, well, you folks go ahead and do what you have to do. We'll review what you've done and let you know what we're gonna pay for.
Well, they certainly have designs that they require through federal process, so
They have what?
it'd be nice to look at design work that they're doing for the planning commission.
The design work of the bridges and stuff?
Yeah, anything that has to do with stream alteration.
Yeah.
You should sit by the mic.
This is probably a good, just
Mike who?
So on the bridges, we have hired an engineer to design the bridges, the Archer Bridge and the Grasshopper Bridge. We tried to design it so that it would be the least amount of disturbance to the stream. We have advertised the projects. We had a contractors pre-bid meeting last Friday. The proposals are supposed to be to us by this Friday, the 15th. In there, I've asked for a price and a completion date. One of the things that they aren't going to be able to give us a completion date is because we don't have a permit to start the project yet. Talked with the engineer to find out when we could get the permit, and he's saying that it might be 1st January before we can get a permit. So we've been trying to get a permit for 3 months,
Yeah, ridiculous.
so it just keeps dragging.
That's FEMA?
No, stream alteration engineer.
Okay,
The state.
that's right, yeah,
And then we have to have a Corps of Engineers permit also.
right.
So would the planning commission like to see the plans for both of these structures?
I think it'd be helpful.
Okay. We have them, we can send them over to you.
Thank you.
Yep. So maybe after next Friday, we'll have a little bit more information, but I'm not sure when the projects are gonna be completed. I think they're probably every indication is that they're gonna be able to be built this winter, and that's what I've told the contractors. Any questions on the bridges in FEMA?
Gordy, I'll say I was planning to bring up during the status of the EWP stuff.
Okay.
Just to let folks know, since we're talking about bank stabilization, maybe, should I do it now or you want me to wait until other?
Huh?
Okay. On some of these efforts, we've applied to the state for what we call their Emergency Watershed Protection Program. And this is where, you know, some of the riverbeds might have been cut into or starting to start to thank you, some kind of a, oh goodness, I'm drawing a blank on the term, but some kind of imminent threat or problem to people's land. So in those situations where there's not a bridge to repair or something like that, we applied to the state for this Emergency Watershed Protection Program, and the state just this past week let us know that 4 of the sites that we applied for have been approved for this program. However, the funding at the state level isn't there yet, so we're not allowed to do any of that work until we actually receive that funding. The funding, if we are going to take on these projects, it's a cost share between the town and the state, so the state will pay 75% of the project and the town has to pay 25%. And so the 4 areas that we're looking at potentially doing work once the state says that they're funded, Agony Hill Road, so where Millbrook goes underneath Agony Hill there's a huge amount of debris that's there. That can be cleared out. Just upstream of that, the bank, Millbrook, has been cut out quite a bit, so we do some armoring of that to prevent it coming any closer to any of the properties there, especially I think near John Swender's place. And then up on Bailey's Mills, kind of where Millbrook and Bailey's Mill comes in together, there's a huge pile of debris there that we can clear out. Along with some bank stabilization efforts near the Chase place, again on Bailey's Mill. So that's what we're looking at right now. Again, state's approved those, hasn't funded it, and we haven't decided if we're actually going to do the work. I just wanted to let you know that that's where we're at for the Emergency Watershed Protection Program. Okay?
Thank you, Bob.
Sure.
Up next, Declaration of Inclusion Letter. Bob,
Yes.
you took the ability of the questions and comments from our last meeting.
Right.
And I think you wrote up a
I did.
different format.
Well, let me just say, I want to thank everybody for giving me a little bit of time to wrap my head around this particular issue, because it is incredibly important. And I have actually heard from a number of you on this, how you feel about it. And as I've said, and I'll continue to say, and you'll get sick of hearing me say it, every one of the tenets that were presented by this grassroots group that's trying to get this inclusivity statement signed by all towns, we all completely agree with. Our concern has been that the state has already taken some action in this, and we wanted to make sure that we're not doing anything inconsistent with what the state's done. So what we've done is, I'd say, rewritten the statement, the Declaration of Inclusion that this grassroots organization has come up with in order to acknowledge what the state's done and then align ourselves with what the state's done. So I'll read it to you now. Welcome any comments. I think it's pretty basic, but I just want you to hear kind of where our heads are at right now. So we're calling this a proclamation of inclusion, which is exactly what the state calls it, a proclamation of inclusion. If I hadn't mentioned, for people that are new to this issue, the governor signed this proclamation of inclusion at the state level back on the 7th of May in 2021. So we've taken the wording from the state and adopted it for the town here. So we say the Select Board of Reading, Vermont proclaims the following. The town of Reading stands with Governor Philip B. Scott and the state of Vermont in condemning discrimination in all of its forms and agrees with the proclamation of inclusion signed by Governor Scott on May 7th, 2021. With this proclamation of inclusion, the town of Reading follows the lead of the state and formally condemns discrimination in all of its forms and welcomes all people who want to live and work and add richness to our town, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender identity or expression, age, or disability. We call upon all members of the Reading community to work together to ensure every individual can live freely, equitably, and express their opinions free from fear, intolerance, and prejudice. Given under our hand this day and whatever day we decide to sign this. So we are prepared, the select board is prepared to sign this today. We can post it on the website, we'll put it up here, we'll put it wherever we think it makes sense. And I think it, as I said, it does two things which we felt that the grassroots effort didn't. It acknowledges what the state did, and it aligns us with what the state did, which was kind of our main concern. We'll have the conversation, I think, with that organization if they're upset that Reading doesn't, we can't check the box that Reading has gone along with us. I think that since we included all the wording that they had, we just added a little bit more, we can say, yeah, fine, you can say that Reading agrees with your statement. We just wanted to make sure that we were in line with what the state said.
So Bob, I rewatched the November select board meeting.
Yep.
And I spent some time on the website putting together for the state level, the town level declaration of inclusion, and there's a couple of things. There was one thing that stuck out to me that was frustrating me watching the select board meeting, and I hoped by the end it was going to get covered, and it wasn't. The statement itself is not the most important piece, in my opinion. If you dig in a little deeper on the information provided on the website, and I do wish the individuals who joined the select board meeting had actually voiced this and they didn't. The way I interpreted it, and what's also listed on the website, is that beyond the statement that town leadership is going to provide a commitment to review and act on town policies, activities, and operating procedures to ensure they are free of bias. So the statement is one thing. I think I've gotten the impression that everybody agrees we all feel this way. Right. But that there are actually steps that the organization that's trying to put this out to all towns, that they actually want town leadership to take beyond just signing off on the statement. And so I don't think that, I think it's great that you reworded it in a way that may be acceptable for the three of you. I don't think that that's actually the sticking point. I think the sticking point should be, is there going to be a commitment after tonight to actually take action by town leadership to move forward towards inclusivity across policies, procedures, etc. And I don't think that that's actually at all in alignment or not in alignment with what the governor did. I was reviewing the proclamation. There's basically 3 points that he signed. The state denounces discrimination X, Y, and Z. Right? Yep. We've got that. Second week of May is Inclusion Week. Yep. Okay, so that's now a statewide thing. And a call to residents of the state to denounce discrimination based on X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. There's no laws in there per se. Right. And there actually is nothing in that aligns with what the townwide declaration says around reviewing policies, procedures, operations. So I'm curious where you guys stand on, again, beyond just signing on the dotted line to this statement, if there will actually be efforts to review policies, review the website, review all areas of our government, including committees as well, to ensure that we kind of drive this point forward.
So I would say, Jerry, that we tried to capture that last, we didn't want to have an inclusivity week like the state does.
No, that's fine, yeah.
But we did say in the last paragraph of this statement that I just read, we call upon all members of the Reading community, not just the leadership or anything like that, or leaders of committees, to work together to ensure every individual can live freely, equitably, and express their opinions free from fear, intolerance, and prejudice. So No, this doesn't say that we're going to review every policy and procedure. I don't think that we should have to review every policy and procedure. I think if people know of a policy or procedure, then it is absolutely incumbent on us to do something about that. But if you're asking us to review every policy and procedure from an intolerance or a inclusivity perspective, is that really what we want, or is this to raise awareness and make a formal statement that Reading won't tolerate this? We won't tolerate it in our actions. We won't tolerate it in the policies and procedures. But if you see something, say something. All right, then, where is it that we need to do something?
I would argue strongly against that. I think that you can say anything you want, but I think actions are a result of actions.
Yeah.
So I think just making a statement does not.
But this is taking an action. I mean,
It is, but again, the original intention, and it, like I said, it's very frustrating that we had 2 representatives from that group that never actually raised this.
Yep.
Because it's clear as day on the website of the overarching intention. The statement is one thing. The statement is supposed to lead to certain change, and in order for that change to take place, action has to be taken. And that action specifically is outlined on their website. What they desire is for town governments to review policies and procedures. Otherwise, nothing changes. If we just say, yeah, we agree with this, and it's on everybody else, that's effectively town government saying, you guys all figure it out, bring it up, and maybe we'll address it. Why not be proactive and say, you know what, we will take the time and put in the effort to see, based on the 3 of you and anybody else you involve, any areas that we do feel, with a different eye put to it, maybe there is some bias in here, maybe there is some exclusivity in here that we never really considered before, because when was the last time we did take a look at all of this stuff with this lens?
I understand what you're saying. And I'm not saying that I disagree, but all of the concerns that I have heard are individual concerns that people have had with, other people that have just conversations they've had in the town, engagements or encounters that have been less than pleasant that they've had in the town. None of that would be affected by our town operating rule policies. I mean, this says what we will tolerate and what we won't tolerate. So we're setting a standard from here going forward. So I guess, I'm doing a lot of talking here. I'm not sure that I'm speaking actually for you guys as much as I'm just speaking my own mind at this point.
No, I don't, Jerry, do you have a specific policy or a specific situation?
I don't, but I think the intention, and I strongly emphasize, I don't feel like it was properly explained from the get-go in the October select board meeting, I think was the first time it was raised, that it's not any one specific one. I have not reviewed everything myself, and I don't think it's reasonable to expect any one individual to do that. But I think there should at least be a concerted effort to do so. And again, I'm shocked that 2 folks that joined never actually went through. I mean, there's 3 main pages on the website that they put together that they're representing, and they only touched on one, which is this 2-paragraph statement. There's 2 whole other sections, which is what their intention is in terms of seeing it, take effect, and then the actions required by leadership in order to get to that point. That the statement is really just it's the contract that you're signing to say we're going to do these things in the hopes that the following results will occur.
Bob, can I ask, or Gordy, do we have a select board set of policies and procedures specific to the town? We follow a lot of state guidelines and regulations. Do we have anything specific to the town that says here's how we do business?
Rules of procedure. Yeah, about the only thing I know of, Bob, and it was written a long time ago, are the rules of procedure.
Okay.
And you'd have to read those over, or we should read those over.
Yeah, I mean, I will commit to looking at that. Anything specific to the town, I think that's reasonable to ask.
Jerry?
Yeah.
I'm confused still what the difference is and why not adopt the declaration that the state already.
Can you read the governor's inclusion statement and then read yours again?
Yep.
I would like that. And perhaps I was sleeping, but I might have missed where you said and sexual orientation.
No, I'll read both.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you, they are word for word.
So then why reinvent the wheel? It's already written by, the experts in, this DEIB initiative in Vermont. And to Jerry's point, if we do check the box, if Reading checks the box and we become one of the now 130 towns, the 131st maybe, there's also funding available if this town did want to take anything further beyond just looking at policies. So why reinvent the wheel when it's already people have already researched this, they've already done the work. Why not just adopt what they've already written?
So I want to be clear what you're asking.
Okay.
What you're saying is exactly what we, I think, have been saying for the last couple of months, which is why are we doing this when the state has already declared this statewide?
Well, that's a different,
Well,
that's a
yeah,
different
that's
issue.
a different thing.
That's
Can you
a
just
different
read the statements?
Okay,
Let's
read
get to
this. Read the states. Okay. So here we go. The state of Vermont formally condemns discrimination in all of its forms and welcomes all people who want to live and work and add richness to our state, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender identity or expression, age, or disability, and will protect these classes to the fullest extent of the law. That's the state's. Ours says the same thing without the statement at the very end that says to the fullest extent of the law. So it says, with this proclamation of inclusion, the town of Reading follows the lead of the state and formally condemns discrimination in all of its forms and welcomes all people who want to live and work and add richness to our town, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender identity or expression, age, or disability.
Hi there. I just wanted to chime in. This is State Representative Tesha Buss. I reached out to the governor's office after listening to the last meeting because I thought it was really prudent that you asked questions about if the state's doing it, well, why municipalities doing it? And so I wanted to read a little bit from the press release that was put out. This was created by Ideal Vermont, which stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, Action, and Leadership. And Governor Scott says, this initiative has many benefits for the state, both from a moral obligation to make sure all are welcome and treated equitably in Vermont, and to build a stronger economy long into the future. A Vermont that welcomes new families and respects and celebrates the differences amongst current Vermonters is critical to making sure we have a safe, healthy, and prosperous future we want for all Vermont towns, cities, and villages. This initiative is building a coalition of Vermont municipalities dedicated to advancing racial and other forms of equity across the state through collaboration, shared knowledge, peer support, and more. And the Office of Racial Equity supports this effort by bringing this coalition together and providing technical assistance. So in addition to peer support and collaboration, member municipalities committed to this effort are eligible to apply for small grants supported through the Vermont Community Foundation. So what I think is really important here is that by joining the initiative that's already put forth, there might be the way for us to get a grant so that the Vermont Community Foundation assists the town of Reading in reviewing all of those policies so that you don't have to do it all by yourself, untrained. These folks have had racial equity training on how to look at policies and procedures. They're the same folks that look at the laws that we write at the state level to make sure that we haven't missed anything, because we don't have that type of detailed training either. So everything is kind of run through that lens. So, first of all, I wanted to say, I think that is really important. And then I also wrote a letter, and it is, last week, the Joint Fiscal Office provided a briefing for all legislators, and we studied financial pressures of our state and how workforce looks for us versus surrounding states. Many surrounding states attracted immigrants that greatly aided their workforce shortages and stimulated their economies. The State Chamber of Commerce recently issued a statement that communities that have adopted declarations of inclusion in Vermont have a stronger workforce recruitment and have attracted workers of all races to relocate full-time to their communities. A population shift of a mere 1 to 3% makes a large impact in our state taxes. Our schools are becoming more expensive, largely due to declining enrollment. Any opportunity to attract young families should be welcomed, particularly when we are experiencing an affordability crisis. While 130 of Vermont's 247 towns have adopted a declaration of inclusion, it represents 72.2% of the population, which means that with simple math, there is a lack of adoption from many small rural towns in the state, places that are in desperate need of healthcare workers, grocery store clerks, hospitality workers, servers, and cooks to support Vermonters with critical needs and affordable meals on our tables. There are no rules or regulations being enforced, but there is, however, potential grant funding by adopting this declaration. And in light of the challenges in the Middle East, in light of the challenges that a Reading High School student experienced in the last few years at Woodstock High School, and recent unfortunate events in Burlington, it would be uplifting for Reading to join Plymouth and Woodstock in the Windsor 5 district to adopt a declaration of inclusion for the current and future citizens that make their home here. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
What was the other town besides Woodstock she mentioned?
Plymouth. So what we have been talking about is a declaration of inclusion. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that.
I don't see a reason why you should be cutting off the very end of the governor's statement about, to the full extent of the law. Why cut that out? If you're gonna adopt the whole...
Because we do not have the ability to enforce law here at the town level. Sarah?
Oh, sorry. I have to say, I am basically speechless at the moment, which some of you will know is a rare condition for me. What was presented to us by the group supposedly knowledgeable about this initiative was not even 1/10 of the picture. And I'm finding myself, after listening to Representative Buss, wanting to go back and say, okay, wait a minute, let's go back and understand what has been asked of us, which is completely different than what I heard in October and in November. It doesn't look like the same initiative at all. And I'm now wondering if we need to go back and find out what the real story is, understand it, and then rethink it through that kind of a lens. If this is an initiative of state government, something that the governor has said, okay, here's my proclamation, and then this is the next place I've gone to, which we were not told.
I didn't take it that way. If Representative Buss is still on the line here, I'd like to get some clarification on that.
Yes, this is an opportunity that we can go through our laws, that our state policy, our town policies and procedures. We have the opportunity to use Ideal as a resource to do that. It's not a mandate that we do it, but it is a resource. So if we really want to take Jerry's point and not just state a value statement, which is hugely important to just state the values, that is first and foremost of huge importance. But if we want to go further and make sure that our policies and procedures indeed fit all those categories, there's a grant available to do that. And there are people that are trained to help the town of Reading do that.
I guess what I wanted to specifically ask, and I think it's what you're getting to, Sarah, is the 130, the group that is trying to get every town to sign this Declaration of Inclusion, is that a state initiative, or is this an individual organization initiative that believes that they're trying to propagate or help what has been stated at the state level to actually make its way down to the folks in the towns?
Right. It is a separate entity from Ideal Vermont that would help you enact the policy. Not the policy, it would help you enact how the statement of values comes more into a on the ground change.
Ideal Vermont is a state program, but this other Declaration of Inclusion that is being put around to all of the different towns is separate from a state program. It's an individual organization that is trying to help what?
So it provides the statement. It collects all the data for how many towns have been included, and it tracks the amount of population of all of the towns that have been included. So it's basically a data tracker, and then, you know, the state cannot do all of the what the Chamber of Commerce always says. We need to elevate our achievements. We need to let everyone in Vermont know of the great laws that we write and the great opportunity there is here. But the state cannot always do that. So we do rely upon nonprofits all the time to express, in this case, market the concept that we have, the governor has stated that we are inclusive here. And so that nonprofit took on that job to make sure that every town could be, could understand the inclusion, and that they could track how many towns joined on and what percentage of the population that represented.
Got it. Thank you. That clarifies it.
Thank you.
So I wrote up some thoughts about, my thoughts about the select board adopting the inclusion. Some of it you've already addressed, but I wrote it, so I'd like to just share it because some has not been addressed, and I think it's important. And namely, I think it's important to adopt the state's Declaration of Inclusion. So these are my thoughts. My husband and I moved to Reading almost 20 years ago, and when we got here, we felt pretty welcomed. And because of that, we started volunteering. Collectively, we've done a lot for this town for 20 years. We've served on the fire department, the auxiliary, the library board, the PTO, the school board, the rec, probably more. And we've had, you know, a lot of positive experiences, and I can see the select board's point about Reading being a welcoming town that aligns with the proclamation. But I've also had some negative experiences. I know others have too. Times have changed, and there are a lot more incidents of hate and discrimination here in Reading, here in Vermont, and all over. For example, when I ran for school board, I had a local resident, it was not John, he was very cordial, we were good, approach me, someone who I considered myself friendly with, and say to me, "You're not from around here, you have no business running against John." I'm aware of another resident who was running for a position and was told by a local, "We don't want your kind here." We all know about the awful situation in Burlington where a local man from this area shot 3 people, and it's being investigated as a hate crime. This past September, there were West Windsor road signs 5 miles down the road vandalized with spray-painted swastikas. In November, a roadway in Bethel was vandalized with racial slurs. A little further back, after the Charlottesville Nazi rally, there was a sign placed right on the Tyson-Reading Road with a swastika. And incidentally, you probably remember, we have a local resident publicly calling for the select board's removal because of age, which we know is a protected class. So these are just a few examples, there's more, but if you look at the Vermont State's Attorney's website, you'll see that next to Chittenden County, Windsor County has the next highest rate of reported incidents of hate and discrimination. The numbers are going up. Chittenden County's has, and we have more than Rutland County. Chittenden's has doubled from 2019 to 2020. Windsor County has gone up 4 times. And so Governor Scott has seen these trends, and as of today, that's been mentioned, there's 130 towns representing 72% of the population. Some of those towns are Plymouth, Woodstock, Springfield, Ludlow, West Windsor, Cavendish. Towns all around us have adopted it. And many partners and organizations like the VLCT, which we're a member of, and local town organizations like the Planning Commission, I don't want to bring that up, but, and the Reading Rec. And we've already talked about, the governor talked about the potential economic benefits, which matters in a town like Reading, where in the 20 years since I've lived here, the hardware store has closed, the store has closed, the restaurant has closed, the school has decreased in population in more than half, and our final village store, the Reading Greenhouse, is in question. So if we're saying we agree with the proclamation, this is how we declare that. This is not another regulation, it's a declaration. We're declaring that hate and discrimination have no place here. This is no different than the signs that have been cemented into the back of the town hall and at the library saying no e-cigarettes, no marijuana use. You don't need to do that. It's already a law, but you did because it's an issue that's important to you to declare. Okay? So we're declaring that hate and discrimination have no place here. And so with so many all around us adopting the declaration, Reading not taking this action and making no choice is a choice. And it's a choice that looks like, at best, complacency or at worst, objection. And so respectfully, as a select board representative whose role it is to act in the best interest of Reading, it's not acting in personal interest or personal opinion, I haven't heard reasons why not. Why not adopt this declaration of inclusion? What, as the town experts, what are the problems that adopting this declaration would cause for the town of Reading or its people? I haven't heard that yet. And so as our representative of the many people for 3 months now, we've got more people than you ever see at select board meetings. You can hear how important it is to the people that you represent. Hear our sentiments and please take the next step from a passive alignment, a very important next step, and just adopt the declaration that's already in place. Thank you.
So Sherry, I'll say, I'm disappointed in your statement just because to me it means you haven't been listening to what I've been saying about this all along, that we agree. What we've put forward here is a declaration of inclusion that is the same as what has been put forward, but with the addition of acknowledging what the state has done. That has been our concern from the beginning is, first of all, when this hit us out of the blue, we wanted to understand what the state had done, did a little bit of research, it seemed like they had done a fair amount in this, and we're just acknowledging what the state had done with all the same words. Now, if, as Jerry brought up, there's some more in that declaration that's being put out by the nonprofit organization that talks about policies, procedures, I don't think that we would have any objections to including that. My concern has been from the beginning is there's no reference whatsoever to the state in the nonprofit's proposal. It looks like something a nonprofit is just putting forward without any state acknowledgement or representation at all. And that's what we're trying to do is just align ourselves with the state, as well as that organization, that nonprofit organization. So I think we've heard you guys, and I know that we've heard you guys.
I don't think you're actually listening to us, though.
So what?
You gotta put that statement in there to the full.
To the fullest extent of the law is not in the nonprofit organization's statement.
No, it's in the governor's statement.
Right.
Why don't you just adopt the governor's statement? If you say you're in line with what the state's saying, why don't you just fully adopt what the governor's saying?
Boy, Robbie, so you're making my point, which was I wanted to adopt the state's statement. Other people want to adopt the nonprofit organization's statement. So we're trying to come up with something that meets the needs of all interested. So that's where we're at right now.
Why?
What do you mean, why? What,
I mean, I'm just wondering if.
Sherry, which way would you, your husband says, we'll just adopt what the state said. What are you proposing that we do?
That you adopt the state's declaration of inclusion that 130 towns.
But that's not. What those 130 have not adopted the state's declaration. They've adopted a nonprofit organization's interpretation of the state's declaration of inclusion.
So it is confusing because there's two things. There's the grassroots declaration that I have a copy of here, and then there's the states. And so the whole push is going to acknowledge the state, that the governor put out this great statement, but the grassroots group was to get it more into the municipalities, because his was directed more towards state employees and things like sort of the feel of the state. So so a lot of us were really talking about was the grassroots. It's a very succinct statement. It's symbolic, but to Jerry's point, and both of you, I really agree all the work and your data that you have, Sherry. But Jerry's really makes a great statement about it. You can't just make a statement and not do anything with it. It really is meaningless. So you have to follow through on that and the policy, what Tessa Bush was talking about, would be a really great thing. And to the select board, what you wrote, I appreciate what you wrote. It sounds reasonable to me and does follow the state and the Declaration of Inclusion that's done by the grassroots. I think it's a pretty good melding of the two. That's my feeling about it.
We have somebody online? Is that what you're pointing to, Patrick? Okay.
Hi, Marie Caduto. I'd like to make sure that the board hears the opinion of the whole group, both those in the room and online. And I'd like to see a raise of hands with the people in this meeting on how many people want the select board to sign the declaration and those who do not want the select board to sign the declaration. I'd like to see that poll taken.
Which declaration?
Yeah, Marie, that's the issue, is which declaration. So
I'm speaking of the one that was put forward by Ideal. That's the one that I feel should be on the table. It's the one that the governor is supporting.
well, you said two different things there. Ideal is a state organization. Then there's the nonprofit organization that has interpreted what the state has put out, different from what the governor has stated in his proclamation.
I would like to see a poll taken on the original declaration that was put forward, not by the select board, by the organization.
And you are right, the governor. That Ideal is working in conjunction with that nonprofit. It is not a separate entity in which there is no collaboration. So that is the reason. There is collaboration as we collaborate with many, many nonprofits. And this process is already vetted. I think the point in the room is that this wheel doesn't need to be reinvented. It's already in motion. And to create your own declaration and adopt it would not provide any technical assistance to enact it. And that would be my main reason for moving forward with what Ideal and has presented, because why would we want to turn away money to help us really adopt the changes that this declaration provides for the town of Reading?
Tessa, I'll say.
I just want to correct one thing. Tesha, I apologize, but I'm on the VT Declaration of Inclusion website, and underneath adopting the declaration PDF, it explicitly has a section on rewording the declaration, and it states the organization may wish to change the wording, the organization meaning our town. This is acceptable provided the basic thoughts are preserved, the designated groups are considered, and they continue to be included. please refer to the guidelines of adoption above, which is on the website. So I'm curious, Tasha, do you know if the wording is changed in any capacity, does that impact the resources available by the state to further adopt and make changes to policies and have resources available?
I would have to do more research on that because I did not look to see the process of changing the wording, but I think it would be prudent to do so if the wording does want to be changed, because the whole point of doing this type of work is running it through folks that do this type of work regularly to ensure that equity is being maintained and promoted. So I would have to get back to you.
I'd like to add that one of the initial objections from the board was that the board doesn't have any enforcement powers in this case. And if you go through the original process and have this support from outside organizations who are professionals at this, then you will have the ability to enforce in whatever way that means. So I think that adopting the original declaration will give you the ability you are concerned about.
I think you did a really nice job with the proclamation, and there are aspects that I really like about your version.
Okay.
I think there are some really valid points that have been brought up. Access to technical assistance could be huge. Jerry, I think, you brought up bringing up reviewing the policies. That's an important step, but it's not for amateurs to do. It's hard to read through policies and understand nuance and how that presents bias. So access to those funds might be a reason to do it. I'm really encouraged to hear that the organization will accept modifications.
Right, agree.
I want to just point out, I really like actually that you're stating we're in alignment with the state, because it really buttresses what the state is trying to do.
Right.
And so I think there are aspects to both that really are good. A little detail, the Declaration of Inclusion offered by the nonprofit includes socioeconomic status as a protected group. And I noted that your version does not. I would ask that that be added in. I think that's huge, actually. And then I think with the revision of offering that the town will review its policies, I could support what you're putting forward. With a caveat that you could still access the funds through this organization for technical assistance.
Yeah, so I'd say I think we've all learned a lot just through this discussion today. I know more now than I did coming into this discussion, I'll say that. And I don't think that, I think we want to make sure that we have access to funds, we have access to technical assistance, and that this isn't just a signature that goes on something and is forgotten. So we want to take action on this. We want to take it seriously. I guess I would like to continue to take the action here and go back and make sure that the wording that's in here is reflective of the nonprofit organizations. If you said that there's something that I missed in terms of socioeconomic status, make sure that that's in there.
Sexual orientation, I believe, as well.
Yeah, I know sexual orientation is definitely in here. We've reviewed that. And I want to make sure that we have the statement in there that Jerry mentioned about reviewing policies and procedures, especially if we have the ability to get some technical assistance to help us with that process.
It might be a good idea to bring it to the organization and make sure they can review it and say, yes, this would be acceptable and eligible for assistance.
Yep, that's exactly where I was going to go next. So let's do that. Get their blessing on our, I'd say, minor additions, recognizing the state work, and then see if that's acceptable. Are you guys okay with that?
Yep.
Well, for what it's worth, their statement, the grassroots movement statement, does not mention anything around the implementation. That's all provided. I'm going to say provided because they're just a grassroots organization. So there's information around adoption and implementation that is detailed on their website, which my guess is their intention of what they're trying to accomplish is for all of these implementation steps to be taken.
Yeah.
The statement is the sort of gateway into that.
Yeah.
So I would encourage the three of you, as well as everybody here, because I don't think it was very well shared in past meetings. Go to the website, I think it's VT Declaration of Inclusion.org, and read through every page. It'll take you an hour, but there's a lot of intention that they are trying to put forward by the adoption of this statement. I don't think it has to be in the statement. I think that's more of a, if we're gonna sign the statement, we're gonna do all these other things. And I think it's really important for everybody to recognize that that's the overarching intention of this organization. And I'm not speaking for them. I'm not a representative of them. Again, I can't say it enough. It's really frustrating to have listened to the last meeting and hearing everybody get very frustrated with each other and just take the time to go review the website. There's more to this than just what was shared. I think that would benefit everybody if we all were on the same page with that, and it's not just whatever this paragraph, 2-paragraph statement.
Amen. Kevin?
Did your statement omit the to the full extent of the law?
We omitted that because that was in the states, but that was not in the nonprofit organization's statement. So we adopted the nonprofit organization's statement and left out what they had left out of the state level one. Okay?
Very good discussion.
Oh, God, are we done?
Would you be willing to read your version again out loud, please? One more time?
Sure. Was that Jean?
Yes.
Anything for you, Jean. All right, here we go. The town of Reading stands with Governor Philip B. Scott and the state of Vermont in condemning discrimination in all of its forms and agrees with the Proclamation of Inclusion signed by Governor Scott on May 7th, 2021. With this Proclamation of Inclusion, the town of Reading follows the lead of the state and formally condemns discrimination in all of its forms and welcomes all people who want to live and work and add richness to our town, regardless of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, gender identity or expression, age, or disability. We call upon all members of the Reading community to work together to ensure every individual can live freely, equitably, and express their opinions free from fear, intolerance, and prejudice.
Thank you. Socioeconomic status and sexual orientation are not in your statement.
Well, it says, okay, it just says sex, it doesn't say sexual orientation. Thank you.
Can I just add, the other thing that's missing is the statement that it wants everyone to feel safe and welcome in our community, and I think that that's a nice sentiment.
Say that one more time.
The statement also comments.
Yeah.
The statement on the Vermont Declaration of Inclusion website says, and wants everyone to feel safe and welcome in our community.
Okay.
I think it's a good sentiment.
Got it. Thank you.
I think that was a pretty good discussion. Bob, did you have some comment?
Yeah. No, I didn't have a comment. I had a question, actually, and it's got nothing to do with whether we sign or don't sign or don't adopt this, but there's been a lot made of the resources available to help with looking at maybe policies, procedures, ordinances, or whatever, as well as small grants. And my question would be, where are these resources coming from and where does the money come from? Is this coming from a private organization or is this coming from the state of Vermont?
This is through the Vermont Community Foundation, which is a private organization that raised money to assist in this initiative.
Thank you. It's just a question.
So it's not your taxpayer dollars.
What's that?
I'd like to say thanks to Mr. Hartnett for taking on this single-handedly. I really appreciate your effort and time you spent on this.
It wasn't single-handedly, Anna, but thank you. Yeah, this was all of us. In fact, everybody, a lot of people in this room have given me opinions on this too. So,
I know we have. Thank you for receiving them.
yep.
So at this point, are we, as a select board, are we going to go back to, not the drawing board, because you've got that started, but back to what Jerry has suggested we look at and other people have said, and maybe add some things to this?
Yeah, so what my plan, just to be clear what we're doing from here on out, is I'm going to take the Declaration of Inclusion prepared by the nonprofit organization as the starting point, add in what we wanted about the state, go back to that organization and say, you've given us the ability to make some modifications and changes. Are these okay? Does this keep us as part of the team? And assuming that it does, then I think that they'll be happy and we should be able to sign that, be part of that group, and hopefully that meets the needs of, or the desires, I think, of the community.
And check to see if we're gonna be available for the sources.
Well, that's why I want to make sure we go back to this nonprofit organization and say, does these changes that we're making, based on what Jerry said and the fact that we can make some minor changes, are these changes okay? And does this still make us eligible for the funds and the technical assistance?
Technical assistance being the big thing.
Yep. Good?
So is
All
there a
right.
motion to table this until the next meeting?
Do we need a motion to table, or this is just a continuing action, or?
Should have some action taken.
There should be some action taken.
Okay, my brain's a little bit fried, but I'll make a motion that I continue to work on this.
Motion to table until the next meeting?
Yeah, motion to table till the
Okay,
next meeting
sure.
is probably.
All those in favor, is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we have to sign some loan papers.
I have some loan papers for you to sign. I just
We
need-
gotta have a liquor license for the
We need a
hall.
motion to sign the loan papers.
Could have a motion to sign the loan papers.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
No.
No?
Yes.
Who made the
I'm sorry,
motion?
before, what loan papers are we talking about? Which
The
loan now?
loan we did from last month's meeting for the fire truck.
Fire
For the
truck.
fire
Fire
truck.
truck.
Okay.
Fire truck. Who made the motion?
Either Bob or I. Bob
B.
made the motion.
B. And the second was by B.
Yep.
Thank you. And I have a liquor license renewal for the Hall Art Foundation. They are doing them totally different now. There's nothing to sign, I just need
Motion that we approve.
a motion that you approve it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Other. Have any others tonight?
I have another.
You do?
I do.
All right.
Hopefully an easy other. Actually, this is a huge thank you to Callista for the water test that we did up at the schoolhouse. So for those who were here a few months ago, kind of after the flood, we decided to test the water supply up there at the food shelf, and Callista did a great job of both tracking down how do we do this, collecting the sample, getting it in, getting it back, and all that. And the results seem to have come back that everything is good to go with that water. We'll post those results on the town website in case anybody's interested in the specifics of
They
it.
are there.
Oh, they're there?
They've been there since 11/28.
Since 11/28? Great. Well, thank you again for doing that. Really appreciate it.
I've got a real quick one. I just want to let folks know that we're going to be circulating a petition to put a request for the town to put on town warrant a funding for the solar array. So we'll have a little bit of information about that to supplement that. We need to get enough signatures to do it.
Special article.
Special article, thank you, Bob, yeah. So that'll be coming soon.
If I could make an announcement from the school board side of things. Since there are so many people in attendance this evening, the working group for the middle school, high school new build will be attending the select board meeting in February to present all the information. We want to make sure that all of our voters are completely aware of the project. We're making great efforts to be transparent about the costs and providing a space for everybody to show up and ask questions both in person and remote, or you can drop me an email if you have any questions.
Any others?
Anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second. Second?
Yes.
All right, thank you all.